Hey everybody, welcome live to the Jim Masters Show, live entertainment lifestyle celebrity talk show series. Look who is back with us here on JMS, a great friend of our show and one of the most renowned drummers in the music industry, somebody who has been doing this like 60 years. And not only is the gentleman you see on the screen a class act and talented musician, but he's also the founder of and director of the Rhythmic Arts Project, which is something very special. He was a previous guest on our series, and we talked extensively about his career, but also about that project and the amazing work that he does. Now, in this episode, we are very, very excited to share with you that he has written a memoir, an autobiography. He spells it all out about his life, the ups, the downs. It's really a page turner. It is open, it is real, it is authentic. Let me slide over here. Boom, there it is. The magic of technology, right? This is incredible. Fatback, Life in the Pocket with Eddie Tuduri, who is back with us here on the Jim Masters Show Live series. And we're very excited to have him back. He's a real class act. He's a great guy, and he's giving back to humanity in such an extraordinary way. That's the book. We'll talk more about it during the course of the show, but let me tell you a little bit about this extraordinary musician and great friend of our show. If this is the very first time that you are hearing about him, or maybe the first time you're getting a chance to see an episode with Eddie on it, he has been doing this again for a long time. And in the book, he tells the story of his years in the rock and roll industry that have been very transformative. Incredible experiences led to the Rhythm and Arts Project. And in his anecdotal memoir, Fatback, Life in the Pocket, he shares all of it. He woke up in the ICU after a 6.5 hour spinal cord operation following a horrendous surfing accident, changed his life forever. But Eddie felt no trepidation, anxiety, or depression, even though he was paralyzed from his neck down. And to him, still having the use of his eyes and ears and being able to talk felt like a lot. So he started on the road to recovery with a single thought: what can I do with physical and mental prowess that I have left? Little did he know that he'd go on to develop the Rhythm and Arts Project, TRAP, an educational program that uses music to address cognitive, emotional, and physical disabilities. And after drumming for decades, he's toured with bands including the Beach Boys, Rick Nelson, the Stone Canyon Band, Brenda Russell, who was a recent guest on our show, Brenda. She's amazing. Brian Auger, Jimmy Messina, J.D. Souther, Michael and Amy McDonald, and many, many others. His reality has shifted from the business of rock and roll to using music as a gateway to escape from the music business, and is excited by the challenge of having new avenues to explore. Really incredible. And there he is in his happy place in that photo that we've still got up on the screen there for you, when he's got those drums, when he's also, doing his thing with others who maybe aren't able to do it at the level that we can. Well, guess what? He's such a sweetheart of a guy. He helped found and create something really, really cool out of his own experience, his own tragedy that could have kept him, stuck in the world of tragedy. He decided to move on from that. And he works with kids and folks who are really excited about music, about learning, and maybe don't have the resources and maybe some of the physical abilities. However, I tell you, when he is there and the rest of the team that he's assembled and he has built, it's extraordinary. And you're seeing on the screen, again, I said that Eddie is in his happy place when he has the drums in front of him. Another happy place for him is moments like what you see on the screen when he's with the kids. And, the pictures do say 1,000 words, and you can see right there on the screen some of these incredible things. Here's a gentleman who is a legend in the music industry, who's gone through it all, the ups and the downs, the good times, the bad times, making the money, not making the money, everything that a musician goes through, or anybody in the industry goes through something that could have taken him out of the picture, recovers from it to the best of his ability, and then gives back in such an extraordinary way and inspires others who have illnesses, who might have certain limitations in their lives, and makes them smile, makes them laugh, gives back. It's really a cool thing, isn't it? Right? Something we really all should do. And it's something that he's been doing for a long time. That's the kind of guy he is. And again, he doesn't say his life is perfect. He doesn't say he's number one. He just does what is right and what he feels in his heart. And whether it's making fabulous music over many, many decades, music that we've all heard and love with some of the biggest names, and of course his own music as well, and then deciding to create that project, it's really something very special. Again, this is the book. You're going to want to pick it up. He was kind enough to send it to me, so I got an advance preview of it, and it is really, really, it's riveting. And whether you are into music or you are a drummer yourself, because we know we have a lot of musicians and singers and folks in all aspects of entertainment who watch our series and love the Jim Astor Show. We appreciate that. But even if you're a lover of heartwarming, inspiring stories, or you just love to learn about behind the scenes, what it takes to get out there and do your thing and make magic, that book, Fatback, he's really open about his entire life, and he shares it with every reader. So it's really amazing. I could talk more about his incredible experiences, but why don't we bring him on so he can as well? It's my pleasure, gang, to welcome back to the Jim Masters Show Live Experience, as we call it, our own project here on the show. Eddie Tuduri joining us from Santa Barbara, California, a great zip code.
Sure.
Back, once again, you look like $1 million. How are you, my friend?
I feel pretty good. I mean, it's all smoke and mirrors, honestly. I don't mind talking about, I've been through some medical stuff lately and come through it all right. I feel pretty good, but gosh, you would think that I looked a hell of a lot worse than I do. So I'm happy,
Absolutely. Yes. Is that the nephew chiming in?
That's my friend Debbie Major. Debbie and I work together.
Hey, Debbie.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Debbie. What's your nephew's name?
I'm sorry?
Your nephew. What's your nephew?
Bobby Cadwell.
Hey, Bobby.
Bobby and Cindy are there. Yeah.
Bobby and Cindy.
Because we weren't.
Bobby and Cindy, not Bobby and Cindy from the Brady Bunch.
I just found out that I played on a Brady Bunch record.
You did?
Yeah. Whoever took over Jan's place.
Yes. Eve Plum, who played Jan. Yes, there was the replacement. Eve didn't want to get involved with it at that time, right? She was moving on from that whole Jan Brady thing. Yeah, so you just found out that you played on that album?
His record.
Wow.
Whatever. I was the producer. I didn't know who the artist was. You never know those days. You do so much stuff.
Well, because in addition to being, solo as well and working with some of the biggest names in the industry, session musician as well. And that's for folks listening who are not sure what that means, being hired to come in, and there's certain music for certain things, whether it's, an album or it's jingles or commercials or film scores or TV themes or whatever it is. And you have your role of drums, and the guitarist comes in, the pianist comes in, and the strings and whatever, and you do what you do. And did you enjoy doing that? You must have been on so much in terms of music that we've heard over the years as a session musician.
Some of it was really wonderful because you didn't know who was going to be there. Right. And if I showed up and Carol Kay was playing bass, or the Leland Sklar or Jimmy
Leland, we had him on the show too. Yeah.
It's an honor to have played with all those people. And the thing is that those sessions they're very seldom are they really famous artists or the songs that you hear. They're like a lot of people are doing song demos. I must have done 10,000 demos. Some of the songs were really good. A lot of them weren't. But you run into the same people day in and day out. You know, in Nashville, I know they call it same tune, different hat, because they're
Right.
in the studio every day playing kind of the same country tune, and they'll have a new artist in, and they just the same tune, different hat. You know,
Now,
so
for you, did you ever have an experience? You know, I've asked that of a couple of other session musicians, and some of them have said things like, well, you know, Jim, going in there, it was a gig. It was a job. We went from that job to the next job to the next, and it was a day job. We came in, we did our thing, and we left. We didn't think much of it after that. But I would imagine there have to be, you know, when sometimes some of these things that are created, even if it's a jingle for a commercial, TV commercial, some of these things have become so glorified and iconic and a part of our lives for years. There must have been times when you were hired to come in, do your thing as a session musician. It was a gig, it was a job, it was paying the bills, but then you did sit back and say, God, that was good. That sounds good. There must have been some songs for you where it wasn't just a gig, but you were really pleased with the whole process and the result.
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have, you know, I'm moving, so we've been packing and moving stuff around and uncovering stuff, and I found records I played on I don't even remember, and CDs that I tried to save when we did sessions like that. I tried to get a copy, you know, especially if I really liked it and I thought there were great players on it. For me, I always felt so privileged to be in the studio, you know, and to be working as much as I was. And so I tried to save everything I did for memory's sake. And I saw so many things I didn't recognize. I was looking on the internet one day and I saw the band Pigs. And then I said, that's a great name for a band. I looked, it said drums Eddie Tuduri. Pigs, well, I don't remember that. And so I bought the record online and I had to listen to it. And then I remembered it sort of came back to me, but not really. I'm sure a lot of studio guys feel the same way. You see people coming and going, coming and going. Some people are doing 3 a day. I didn't do that. I wasn't that fortunate, but I mean, I was trying to talk to a friend the other day and it was like 9 in the morning. He said, I can't talk. I have a 10, 2, and a 4, which meant he was in one studio at 10, another one at 2, and another one at 4 that day. And every day, sometimes. My friends in Nashville do that. There were 3, 4 sessions a day. You know. So
And they would bring in the singers as well, the singing groups who'd come in to do their bit as well. Yeah. I know we've had several people that have been connected with one of the larger names, that the Ron Hicklin singers, who were used for so much over the years, TV themes and commercials, and just you see their name on, and the Cowsills were used a lot for background jingles and all kinds of stuff. And I miss all that stuff. I like jingles, and I like, you know, when people are harmonizing. And, you know, years ago, even a vacuum cleaner would have a jingle, and motor oil would have a jingle, and, you know, cheese would have a jingle.
I remember in LA, Bob's Big Boy was a really famous restaurant, and the jingle for that was, because at Bob's Big Boy, we love good cheese just like you do. And everybody sang it, and it went on for years. I kept getting mailbox money for that for 10 years, you know, which was
You
cool.
deserve a break today at McDonald's. I mean, kids used to sing, you know, the jingles too, that they would hear on television or on the radio. And, you know, I'm a pepper, you're a pepper. Wouldn't you want to be a pepper too? All these, and it was terrific for branding. You know, when you had the jingle, you thought of the product. A lot of times today, you watch and you're like, they do it like a story or something, and you don't even know what the product is that they're talking about. You're like, what the heck was that? I have no idea what they were trying to sell. It's like,
But you remember a good musical jingle, right? You remember?
yes,
I did Southern California Volkswagen dealers. We started the whole thing, and that was on for years. Still, people hung. As soon as it came on, you sang along with it, right?
exactly it. That's exactly,
Well, it's not like
yeah.
anymore. Not really.
Well, I'm glad that you're healthy and you're doing well, my friend. And it's so good to see you and such good spirits. And as I said, as the founder and the creator, director of the Rhythm Arts Project, it was such a beautiful thing to do. But going back, what for you, and you're so open in the book too, and I don't want to give everything away because we want people to get the book and read it. How'd you come up with the title? Folks watching might not know musically what Fatback means, right?
Point. I had an editor in the beginning, and when I couldn't think of a title for the book, I had a lot of different titles, and then it struck me that all my life I've been playing this type of music, which is Fatback music, and it means playing rhythm and blues primarily, or soul music, playing behind the beat. So you can't really hear me, but if there's a place you can play in the middle of the beat, on top of the beat, or behind the beat. And behind the beat is Fatback. So it means playing full round notes slightly behind the beat, in time, but behind the beat. So it gives the groove that space to breathe. You hear that bit, you hear bop, bop, and there's all this a breath between the backbeats.
Exactly.
It makes the music move and feel better to me.
Right.
So I remember the guy said to me, "What's this Fatback? What have you got to do with pork ribs?"
Right. That's exactly what you would think, right? For those that, right?
Yeah. And the pocket is where the backbeat falls.
Right.
Right. You can play in the middle, you can play in the front of it, or you can play behind it. It's the pocket, as long as you're consistent. So yeah, there's a disclaimer on the second page, I think, because I knew that would come up.
For people who maybe music, they don't study music or they're not in music, but they're interested in the whole story. And so for us who use our voice for a living, speaking, announcing, hosting, whatever, the Fatback we might call a pregnant pause. Let it soak in.
That's exactly right, man.
Let it go. And before we continue, give us a moment to just
take a breath. Yeah.
Take the breath. Right. Yeah. Exactly. I think our society needs more Fatback, because I think our society around the world, people need to take a little more breath. Everybody's just like this. Take a breath. Let's, let it wash over you. Enjoy what you're hearing and what's happening. Right.
Yeah. Have you interviewed Robin?
Say too, Eddie, when you mentioned as far as like, hitting it right spot on, we would say, I wonder if you probably say it too, like when we're editing things, music, or saying something verbally where there's music underneath and we hit the post is an expression we use, where we said this word just at a time when the music went boom, or a drum beat went bum, or the kettle drum went boom, bum, hitting the post. It might be a broadcasting term, but we use that a lot too. And sometimes you'll see people in the studios high five each other because they're excited about it. God, you hit the post. The words and the music hit each other at the same time with that finish, and you hit the post. Cool.
That's a cue to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like right. It's kind of like that, and to have it perfectly hit. It's similar, but maybe it's an inside broadcasting term. Our viewers are learning so much about music and broadcasting today.
Uh-huh.
So
background singers, I mean, the background singers never get their due.
they're due. No, we've had some on, right? And
Producing and used Claudia Lanier and Vanetta Fields, and there was a group of girls in Los Angeles in those days who sang on everything, and no one ever knew who they were, unless they got a job with Claudia got a job with the Rolling Stones. So obviously, she and Mick Jagger were an item, and she became famous because of that. But long before that, she was one of the greatest, and still is one of the greatest singers in the world. We don't know because they're 20 feet from stardom.
yes, right? Yes, exactly. And there was that documentary too, something like that. Yeah, and somebody that was in it is a dear friend, and I don't know if you ever worked with her, but when I hear her sing, we worked on a project at Carnegie Hall, and I was the MC. It was a Christmas concert, and she was one of the singers, and I was the host, the MC. I introduced all the artists on stage at Carnegie Hall. I've done it several times, and it's an incredible thing to be on the stage looking out as opposed to just being in the seat looking up at the stage. Yeah. To be on it, I'm sure Lisa Fisher, one of the great voices. Every time I hear her, I'm just like, I don't hear anything else.
Me too. I mean, my friend for 50 years was Tata Vega, and she was in 20 Feet from Stardom too. And she had the greatest respect. Everyone has the greatest respect for Lisa. I don't know her, but I'm a big fan. Tata Vega was pretty.
Have you ever felt that? Have you? Because you're a revered, extraordinarily talented musician, and you've created, the Rhythmic Arts Project, which is an absolute legacy. But do you ever feel? I know you've been open about just saying, look, I did what I had to do. I did my thing. Was I a star? Who knows? Was I this, that? Who knows? Did you ever feel 20 feet from stardom?
Every gig I had. We're always in the background. And I mean, I remember a lot of gigs. I played Madison Square Garden with the Beach Boys when I was a kid. And I remember my whole family came. My nephew Bobby was there, and his wife Cindy, and my mom and my sister. They were all in the front row. I remember, being on a riser all night for 2 hours or more. That was a long show. And after the show, I was standing on stage watching the guys break it down. I was always fascinated how they set up and tore down. I was just sitting, and a bunch of young girls came running across the stage with autograph books, and they came right up to me and almost knocked me down and said, "Are you anybody? Are you anybody?" And
Are you anybody?
I said, "I'm just sweeping up." And they walked away like I was stained wallpaper. They just, that was it. So you don't know. I mean, I was never a star. I always tell people that I paid the rent playing drums my whole life. That's success to me.
Right.
I remember that night too. My mom, she grew up in Brooklyn. Well, from Italy, but she grew up in Brooklyn.
She's from Italy, and your father's Spain?
Spain, yeah. And I remember I went down after the show as quickly as I could get down to them to see how my mom, because she took out ads in local papers, and my sons at Madison Square.
Wow. That makes sense. My family did that too. Yeah.
Right, they would. So I ran down and said, "Mom, so how'd you like it? She said, "I told you to move that damn cymbal." I couldn't see your face. All right, Mom. Next time, I promise. But there's this thing about stardom and fame. Very few of us reach that. level of recompense, and you know, when people recognize who you are and they know your name, you know, I was always like, "Aren't you the guy that did this or that?" You know, I don't remember. Probably.
A lot of times, well, yeah, when you do something for decades, you can ask actors, actresses to remember that TV show, that soap opera, that movie you were in. They're like, actually, no, I don't, because they've been in so many
Right.
and went from one thing to the next. I know a couple of them say they don't even watch. Like, for example, just recently on a news program, Martin Sheen, legendary, fabulous actor, they were talking about West Wing and that great series where he played the president. It was on NBC, and they're talking about possibly a reboot or something. And they showed a scene that was very moving about the transfer of power. And Martin Sheen was in the studio, and it was live, and he was with the woman who is the author of this book, or co-author of this book that he's written. And he started welling up. He started crying live on television. He had never seen that clip, that episode of the show. Never watched it, never saw it. Do you like to listen back to things you've done, or once you've done it, do you move on? I know some people, they don't watch the movie that they've starred in. They go to the next movie set. They don't watch the TV series that they starred in. They don't remember the episode because they've never watched it. They go from thing, then they remove themselves emotionally from that thing, and they go full on to the next thing. How do you do it?
I forget because there were so many things, and some of them really not worthy, and some of them were. I don't. I go back once in a while and listen. If I find something I like, I'll take it in the car and listen to it a little bit more. But no, not really. I have certain records I played on that I really like, and I might play those. I worked with Jimmy Messina for a couple of years, and we made a record in Nashville. It was so good. I thought his choice of material and all the guys in the band were really great to work with. And Jimmy's a great engineer, producer, singer, guitar player. And that record, he redid the Loggins and Messina songs, Angry Eyes and Pooh Corner, and then he did a couple of his original tunes from Poco and other bands. And there was something magic about it. It wasn't like all over the place or fancy, but it had a pocket. It had a groove. He and I played so well together. And the bass player and everyone else, they were all really great players. Jimmy and I had sometimes you run into someone. And with me, it doesn't have to be a bass player. It could be a piano player or a guitar.
Right.
Mostly guitar players. I worked with Danny Weiss. There was a band called Rhinoceros back in the 70s. Danny's played with everybody, and he's the funkiest guitar player I've never known anybody that funky. And he was like a teacher. I mean, we were on the same level, at least I tried to be, but I listened to him, and we had made up hand signals, and he would, he'd say this, that meant this groove, and then he'd tell me something else, and then he'd play with me, and it was, just amazing how that was. I don't know. I mean, I have live tapes of that band with Danny. I'll play for you someday. It's the best band I ever played with. It's an R&B band, and it's just killer. Deep pockets, Fatback, great vocals, arrangements, So those kind of things. I've been playing that record since, well, it isn't even a record. It's live tapes that I made a record out of, and I've been playing those since 1981.
Was the drum the first instrument for you? Was it something you always gravitated to?
Just drums, yeah.
Case in point with that shot. Oh, I do my research.
Oh, man.
Cool. There he is, everybody.
I
There's
was in a
young
high
Eddie.
school band when I was 12. That's what that is.
That was in the band, huh? Wow. When was that? Do you recall when that was?
57?
1957. Wow, huh?
I'm just guessing 50s
A
probably.
boy and his drum and a dream. So when you were around that age, did you have a big dream? Did you want to become a star? Did you
Yeah,
want to make
sure.
it big? And who were some of the people that were doing it that you admired, that you loved listening to, that you sort of revered?
The Rascals.
Oh, Felix Cavaliere and the Rascals. He was a guest on our show too. They are fabulous people, aren't they?
Just died about a year and maybe 2 years ago.
Right.
He did more for drumming than anybody in those days. He was articulate, schooled, and he was a showman.
Yeah.
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 There were a few, I like Gene Krupa. When I was only maybe 12 or 13 years old, I was in the city with my mom. And during the day, and she let me walk around. She was with her sisters. And I went to the Metropole. And Gene Krupa was playing there. And he set his band up behind the bar. And I went to the door, and they wouldn't let me in. I was just a kid. And I told the bouncer, I said, this is, I know I'm too young, but this is my idol. I just want to stand by the door and listen. He said, okay, kid. That was one of those moments in my life I'll never forget.
Mm.
I got to see Gene Krupa right up close. I never met him, but, that was something. And there's been a lot of people, like Louis Belson was a friend of mine. I mean, I used to go out with his daughter, so he would come over to my house. I made pasta, and I'd make him play, but I'd make him play for his dinner.
Play for his pasta.
Yeah.
That's cool. Look at this shot.
That
goes back. When was that?
That might have been that's in Canada.
That was in Canada, yeah.
Yeah.
Is this like the 70s, you think?
80s.
This is the 80s.
81 to 85, I lived there. So
in what part of Canada?
This picture was taken in Mississauga, Toronto, where it's flooding. The last few days, it flooded.
Mississauga. The fact that you can even pronounce that makes you an expert. Mississauga,
yeah. The Indians,
And look at this shot we dug up.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
This is maybe the best guitar player in the world, Chris Pinnick. Chris played with the band Chicago.
Right.
On maybe 3 or 4 of their albums in the 80s. But he's played with several more people. And he and I have been playing together for 50 years. And he's... it's just amazing. And that's Ronnie Lee Cunningham. Ronnie played piano and left-hand bass, and he sang lead. It was just the 3 of us. I have tapes or CDs of that band live that I play a lot.
Wow.
It's one of the things I pull out from time to time.
You've had such a great opportunity in all these years to play, like I said, with so many incredible people. You mentioned Rick Nelson and the Beach Boys and Jimmy Messina, Brenda Russell, who was just a guest a couple of weeks ago on our show. And she's fabulous.
I love Brenda. She's,
real talented.
We've known each other for many. I talked to her the other day.
She did a lot of jingles and all that too over the years, she said. Yeah.
She's one of the first people that wrote, produced, played the instruments, and sang the backgrounds, and a woman to do that, right? And then of course you talked to her about A Color Purple and
unreal. And wonderful friends of yours, Michael McDonald, Amy McDonald, of course, as well. And as a matter of fact, I know that he provided an exceptional quote. A lot of people have left incredible quotes about your book which is
I paid them all for it.
You pay them all,
Awesome.
which I think is fantastic. Yeah, no, it's really something incredibly special. And
Dave Garibaldi did the forward. I mean, he's on a pedestal to me. He's probably the funkiest drummer ever. He's a very studious, conservative, straight ahead, really nice guy. Help anybody, and we've been friends for years and years. And Tristan Bowden, another sweetheart, and Greg Bissonette. They're the kindest people in the world, and they had such nice things to say. You know, and they've worked from when I didn't feel well during that first cancer scare, and you know, Willie Ornelas and Tony Brownagle. You know, Tony and I are friends, and they all came to my rescue, so to speak, and played either with me or they would play. I would take a tune off and rest, and they would play. There's the greatest camaraderie of drummers anywhere in Los Angeles, and the people who wrote those things about my book, Michael and Amy, had a wonderful little piece they wrote, and Greg and Tris and David, and I can't remember. There were a lot. There were really a lot. I was teary-eyed when I looked back at it and went, "Wow, are they talking about me?"
You talking about me? Yeah, no, they've really said, like, for example, Greg Bissonette said Eddie Tuduri's new book, Fatback, Life in the Pocket, is a must-read for anyone in the music business, music education, or for anyone that wants to read a heartfelt story with great advice from a wonderful longtime friend of his and great musician. Eddie's incredible personality shines through in every chapter. He breaks down the meaning of groove and feel better than anyone. Way to go, Eddie. What a great book, which I think is incredible to get, comments like that.
He's one of the 5 best guys in the world. All those guys are the best players in the world. And Vinny, tell you also, he didn't write anything, but he came and played with me, 2 drummers, whenever I was down. When I broke my neck, I only had one arm and one foot. He'd be my other arm and my other foot.
He'd be the other.
Yeah, I'm just blessed to have people
who really are behind you all these years. Like you say, Michael McDonald and Amy McDonald. This is what they said about the book, which I think is incredible. Our friend Eddie Tuduri's story is one of turning tragedy into triumph. After years as a successful musician in LA, he met with tragedy that began a long and arduous journey back into his career as a drummer. But a new chapter in his life began with an ever-widening horizon of opportunity to make a difference in so many others' lives. The miracle of his positive influence on others reaches around the globe today. His story from beginning to end is all at once humorous, yet one of perseverance and triumph. Michael and Amy McDonald. And it really is, you open up in such an incredible way about everything that's happened to you. Again, a celebrated drummer doing your thing on albums and just doing what you do and doing it so well. And then there's this accident that happens, which some people watching might not be aware of, that changes everything. And which, as we've seen, life is crazy and unpredictable. And what we just went through with this pandemic also reminds us how the fragility of things and how things can change on a dime. Tell us about that experience. You're going along, everything is going along relatively well. You go out into the ocean, and then something happens from there.
I lived across the street from the ocean, and I swam and body surfed almost every day. And the beach in Carpinteria is known as the safest beach in the world, but you can't ever, predict what a wave is going to do or how it will turn or how seemingly angry the wave was that I jumped into that day. It wasn't a giant wave. I was body surfing, no board. And it didn't turn. It just went bam. And I heard a snap and then nothing. And I was 3 feet underwater, totally paralyzed from the neck down. And I watched my body floating in one direction and my spirit in another. And it entered an entirely new, much kinder world of light. And I know people have so many different expressions about this when it happens to them. And it's happened to many people, but none of us can really put our finger on what a near-death experience feels like. For me, after a couple of years at least of trying to explain, because people want to know, and I wanted to be able to articulate it. And finally I said, most people have had a dog that they loved. I had a few. Bach, my pit bull, was my whole life. And I had Ruby, which was another little female pit bull. But Bach had these big brown eyes. And I remember I spent like 15 years with him every day. And I said to people, if you have had an animal like that you were this close to, it was like, for me, the near-death experience was like falling into Bach's eyes. And everybody just tears up or goes, oh my God, I can imagine what that feels like. So that's my explanation for that. I was lifted from the bottom and placed at shore where the lifeguard, and there was no one there, by the way, the lifeguard with the most seniority happened to be on duty. He put some surfboards up so the water wouldn't drown me. And then they called the paramedics, and the paramedics with the most seniority happened to show up. They handled me perfectly from the shore to the skid, to the ambulance, to the hospital. In the hospital, the number one neurosurgeon on the Central Coast happened to be there on a Saturday. They rolled me right into him. Boom. And he looked and he said, what's this? He said, well, the guy, he broke his neck, blah, blah. So I'll take him. And I went right into surgery. And, I woke up, long story short, 6.5 hours later, or 7 hours later, they had taken a bone out of my hip, infused 5, 6, and 7. And I was totally paralyzed from the neck down, nothing. I woke up in the ICU, a total quadriplegic. But I knew I'd be all right because of this experience I had. And I couldn't really explain to anybody. It's not the kind of story you tell everybody. And so I just kept my mouth shut, and I kept telling everybody, don't worry, I'll be fine. And then they thought I was delusional. I was in the ICU for maybe 8 or 9 days. Then to the rehab, and then the rehab, they started sending psychiatrists and said, Eddie, you're going to have to deal with this. Long story short, I said, I really understand. I love you guys. I appreciate what you do. But the truth is, you're going to have to learn to deal with this because I'm going to be all right. And all the evidence, and those people are my friends today, and all the evidence said no, that you can't walk. It's impossible. You can't. It's destroyed. You can't walk. And 6 weeks later, I walked out of the hospital. Mm. So I don't walk very well, but after a few years, I figured out how to play again. I don't play like I used to, but the Fatback is there. The pocket is still there. And
how did you make your way back? How did you manage to do that? Because that alone is very inspiring for others who maybe have experienced something and they're stuck in that place of, I'll never be able to do what I've always loved to do again. And there are some
Well,
certain moments where that is the case, but in your case, you found a way to. How did you muster up the belief in yourself to do it?
If you want to get me to do something, tell me I can't, or I'll never do that. 5 minutes later, I'm doing it. So I don't know if that has everything to do with it, but I was determined, and I had that message from the near-death experience that I was going to be fine. To be patient, continue to work very hard every day. I lived at the beach, still lived in the same place, and I would walk every day. It would take me 2 hours to walk a quarter of a mile up to the coffee shop. And people would stop to give me rides. I said, no, I'll make it. When I needed to, I sat down on a bench or something. Every day I walked back and forth. And I built my legs and muscles back. So I was able to walk, and I started, like, this hand is only about 40%. It's not perfect. This one's about 75. So it's better. But
you built back better.
I'm sorry?
You built back better.
Yeah. I was able to play drums and do all the things. And I have all my facility. They said that I wouldn't. They said I wouldn't have bowel, bladder, everything a man can do, I can do. So all of that came back, and none of it was supposed to work statistically. And by all the doctors and all the tests, and they all said, this is impossible. I said, well, not really. Here I am, And I worked at the hospital for like 3 years. Libby Whaley and I kind of developed the program initially in the hospital. Mm. And we worked with everybody. And I think the most that I had to give was that I was walking.
Absolutely.
People would say, oh, I can't do this. Come on, man. Look at me. I did it. I have a guy, John, in Santa Maria. He's a great student of mine, an older guy. He can't open his hand. His hand's always like that. When I asked him to play, so I told him the story of my hand. Didn't work. My hand came back like this. And little by little, then I got it. I put it on a drum head and kind of stretched it on the drum head, every day, all day, every day. Every chance I had, I worked it. And I told him about it. It took him a while, but now he uses his hand. And it was from my example. I mean, when we have that gift, it's selfish not to share it. Share it every day, whatever that is. I'll tell you about this cancer I just recovered from. Was my colon. It was colon cancer. They had to take part of my colon out. So we found it in a colonoscopy. And after I went through the hospital, the operation, 3 days in the hospital, all that, and I got home, and like a few days ago, I thought, there's nothing funny about cancer, any cancer, but I need to say something about it humorously. I try to make everything funny. I think the book was funny, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I wrote about the cancer and warning people, get your colonoscopy. Just get it. I know a lot of people don't want to do that.
I get them regularly. Yeah.
Yeah, keep doing that. So
were you doing it, or was that a first one?
Well, I was doing it. I never missed my colonoscopy. They found the cancer. I'd be dead if I didn't go.
So when was your last colonoscopy before this one?
3 years.
So within 3 years, something developed inside and turned into, wow. 3 years, because sometimes they tell people, oh, you're good for 5. Don't come back till 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
Within 3 years.
I have to go every year now.
Hmm.
I don't care. You know what? I know it's no fun, but what's the
Just you drink
alternative?
the fluid at night and da 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 da. But
Yeah,
it's not like open heart surgery or anything. It's a lot of people don't do it because they're afraid of the preparation and everything. You drink the fluid, you run to the bathroom, blah blah blah. It's the same thing as if you went out and had bad Mexican food or something.
listen,
You run to the bathroom,
you,
and you have to clean out everything. So when they go in, and that twilight, I actually like the twilight anesthesia that they give you because
yeah, I like any kind of stuff.
you're talking to them, and they're the doctor and all their. How are you? How have you been? How is everything? I saw you on TV last night, and and you're having a conversation as you're laying down in the room. And then they said, "Oh, by the way, can you count down to 0 from 5?" Sure. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Right.
And then you wake up with absolutely no memory, amnesia about anything that's happened. And I always, whenever I've had them and they do that twilight anesthesia, I wake up giddy and happy. I'm excited. But one mistake I made was I was hungry because, the whole night before you couldn't really eat. You had to do whatever cleansing or whatever. We went out to lunch one of the times right after, and I had French onion soup. I
Oh,
know that didn't work. That was a bad mistake.
yeah.
So anybody, do not eat immediately after,
But go get it.
but get it.
Get that call.
Get it. Public service announcement
You're
from Eddie
absolutely
Tuduri.
dead.
Yeah.
You'll be dead. I'll tell you, I put this funny story on the internet a few days ago. There must be 300 comments. And a lot of them were, Eddie, I don't like these. I wasn't going to do it, but I will now. I booked and they'll write back and say, I booked my colonoscopy. Thank you. You know what? I mean, we could save lives as simple as that. Just share your truth. And
Exactly. And
um,
you do that in the book, my friend. We don't want to give the entire book away, but maybe you want to share a passage or two from the book with our viewers, because again, it really is a roller coaster experience, and you are open and humorous, and you talk about all the experiences, the good, bad, the ugly, the indifferent, in a very realistic way in that book. Maybe you can share an excerpt or two from the book for us.
okay, I really got a kick out of. We had a band called Smack in Connecticut before I moved to California, and long story short, we met this older guy from like he was 18, and he played B3 Hammond, and he came out of New York, upstate New York. He came down to Connecticut and he kind of put our band together and really taught us a lot. I mean, he wasn't the nicest guy in the world, and he wasn't that truthful, but boy, could he play. He was a great musician. And we had a great guitar player in the band. His name was Roger. And Roger was a funny kid. Everybody liked Roger. He was a big guy. He wasn't really big on hygiene or brushing his teeth or washing his hair, and he wore this iridescent green coat, full length. But he had this gold top Les Paul, which is probably worth $50,000 if we had it today. And we picked him up in Waterbury. You might know where that is, Jim. And he would come out of we'd pick him up at a park, and he would come out of the park, and he didn't say much. He was affable. Everybody liked him, but he had we all had accents, really bad Brooklyn accents. They were just awful how we spoke. But Roger was the worst. Well, Roger was a giant guy. I mean, he must have been 6'3" or 4", and he was big. And he was a bad guy. I mean, you didn't piss him off, or he would hurt you. So we used to do, in those days, you had to do, in 1964 or 5, you had to do a Beatles song, right? If you had a band, you're playing in the bar, you had to learn a Beatles song. So we were an R&B band, but we chose Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So the guys could sing very well, and that seemed like a cool song, a little bit challenging, you know. So in that song, there's that refrain that says, "It's wonderful to be here. It's certainly a thrill. You're such a lovely audience. We'd like to take you home with us. We'd like to take you home." You remember that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we had 4-part harmony in it. And Roger had a great voice, but he, oohs and ahs were just great. But if he had to pronunciate, he had that accent. So we got to this part every night in the song. He would go, "It's wonderful to be here. It's certainly a thrill.
Bada bing, bada boom."
The audience would like to take us home with us. We'd like to take. Well, the first time we heard that, we cracked up. And we went out on a break, and he came outside. He said, "If you guys ever laugh at me again, I'm going to beat you all up." At the same time, he said, "I'll hurt you, all of you." There were 3 of us. He said, "I will really hurt all of you." So every night we did that song, we couldn't laugh. We had to wait till we dropped him off in the park where he disappeared into the bushes, and then we'd laugh all the way back to Derby, right? But there were many things like that. There were a lot of crazy stuff that happened. And you know who Ronnie Hawkins is? Well, Ronnie Hawkins and I played in this band, but we didn't get along because I'm a Yankee and he's from Arkansas. And he wore a big 10-gallon hat, and his favorite saying was, "Hey, let's get drunk and be somebody." He lived in Petersburg, Ontario for 30 years. He still had this really, he put on his accent and really played the part, you know. He wasn't a nice guy. Sorry. And he and I just didn't hit it off. We were like oil and water. We played well together, you know, but he just didn't like me. So I remember after the show one night, we were somewhere outside of Toronto, and I went back to my room with a girlfriend of mine, and that was the girl he was trying to be with. I didn't know that. I mean, we just hit it off, and you know, she came back to my room, and about 4 a.m, he and his whole entourage came in my room, right? About 15 people, right? And we're in bed, and we got dressed and we sat up and we said, well, we can't beat him. We may as well join him. And he's very boisterous and tells dumb jokes over and over again, the same ones day in and day out. But we got into a little argument, and he was an older guy and I was a young punk, and I couldn't start a fight with him. That would have been, I couldn't do that. But he had this friend of his that was kind of an idiot, so I grabbed him and threw him out in the snow. I mean, it's the stuff you do when you're drunk and stupid. And that broke up, and I got really pissed off, and I left the room. And I went down the hallway, and I got to the foyer, and there was a blow-up cardboard picture of Ronnie Hawkins in the lobby, standing in the lobby, a cardboard blow-up. So the night guy was there. I remember he was bald. He was sitting at the desk, and he had his hands like this, and his glasses were down like that. And he was like reading the paper or something at 4:00 in the morning. When I walked in and saw him, and then I saw this blow up of Hawkins, and I went crazy. I kicked it, I ripped its arms off, and I was beating its head in. I made a mess out of it. Meanwhile, this guy just didn't say anything, didn't move. And then I didn't know what to do. I beat it to death, and I thought, okay, I'm going back to my room. And so it turns out that Ronnie had the last laugh that night because nothing happened to him. I went out and made an idiot of myself. But that's what you do when you're drunk and it's, 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning.
And the guy that had the glasses down that was reading the paper,
Never moved.
He's probably seen that many times before.
It just didn't faze him. Not
It
at all.
didn't faze him.
You had to see it. It was like, oh my God. I mean, I was a maniac. I ran and attacked a cardboard dummy. What's that say about me? I mean, I won.
Still to be determined.
I won.
You won.
I beat the crap out of
that cardboard. You've had some fabulous moments too. What are some of the moments that you share in this incredible book? Again, congratulations on the book. That really stand out for you, that are some of your favorites in your career, and if not in your life?
A lot of my younger days, I wasn't entirely sober, so those experiences, though most of them were good, some of them weren't very good at all. The ones that really stand out for me is some of the touring with the Beach Boys. Carl Wilson was so nice. He was very serious. Carl called. I met him in the studio. He heard me playing somewhere, and then he started using me on sessions, just me and him at Brother Records. And he was so illustrious, yet kind and down to earth. Those kind of relationships. Then we went on the road together for I don't know how many tours I did with them, but it was an amazing relationship, and to be that close to him, sometimes just he and I working together, those moments I'll cherish forever. And there were other gigs that Rick Nelson, I never thought I would do that kind of a job. It wasn't my cup of tea. Rick would help me sometimes because I couldn't play country music that well. And he would come out and show me how to, instead of, I used to swing everything. And Rick would come out and say, no, Eddie, we have to look at this from a country place, But he was kind and never looked down at me. He always made me feel like, man, you're the guy.
You're the guy, right?
But you think you could try this? And yeah, and then I learned. So I learned a lot. So there's moments, pertaining to my playing career and the people I got to work with and the places I went, And then there were really crazy times. Tim Bogert, who was a great bass player, he played with the Vanilla Fudge when he was a kid, and then a New York band, right? And then he was in Cactus. Then he was with Jeff Beck and Carmine Appice, and then with Beck Bogert and Appice. And he played with one major band after the other. I showed up to do an audition once in Thousand Oaks. It was about 30 minutes away from the Valley where I lived in LA. And Ralph Humphrey, one of the best teachers, drummers in the world, played with Frank Zappa and everybody. He wrote all the curriculums, he and Joe Porcaro, another stunning gentleman. Ralph couldn't do this gig. He said, go play with these guys. It's more your style than mine. I said, okay. Trying to follow Ralph Humphrey anywhere was like, I might as well just shoot myself. But the band was more my style than his. It was Steve Perry.
Oh, wow.
And Tim Bogert, and a wonderful guitar player named Denver Cross. And oh my God, the band they had auditioned over 30 drummers. They just couldn't find anybody. So we started playing. It felt really good. And, it was a decision I had to make too. I didn't know who Steve Perry was. When he opened his mouth, you went, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we played for 5 or 10 minutes. We all looked at each other and said, "Yeah, let's do this." You know, so we put together about 40 songs, original songs. I have some I'll play for you one day. Stunning, just the most creative stuff, long before Journey or any of those things that Steve ended up doing. We knew he would be major. I took him to his first rock and roll concert in my limo.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was with J.D. Souther opening. Well, J.D. was a special guest of the Eagles on
Yeah.
the California tour. That was major. And J.D. wrote most of those songs, or co-wrote a lot of those songs with Henley and Fry. So we weren't treated like we were treated as special guests. And the first 4 nights were sold out at the Forum in LA. 4 nights sold out. So I took Denver, the guitar player, and Steve Perry with me in my limo. And I took Steve out and showed him what a big audience looked like. I'll never forget it. He was like,
Wow.
wow. I said, man, you have no idea, kid, what's going to happen to you. This is every night for you for the rest of your life. As soon as somebody hears you open your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It was. He became, in my opinion, the best singer in pop music ever. I loved his voice. He was a really nice kid, very humble. And Denver, too, was great. So those moments you never forget when you see the look on somebody else's face, like, wow. You know, and then they become the biggest thing since Volvo.
Right.
You know.
Did you like the Beatles?
No. Unfortunately, and I take it on the chin for this. It's not that I didn't like them. I grew up listening first to jazz.
Jazz, yeah.
And then I heard rhythm and blues.
Mm-hmm.
Otis Redding and James Brown.
Yeah, I love all that. Yeah.
Bobby Purify. And, my first big gig was at the Brooklyn Fox, a Murray the K show.
Wow, that's right. Yeah.
I was with Cannibal and the Head Hunters. Na, 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 na. You know, you got to know how to pony. It's a big song when our parents were kids, I think.
You still hear it on the radio and Sirius XM channels and all now. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
And we did this R&B show there. I was 16, I think, and I was driving because I would drive there from Connecticut. The show was 10 days, and 2 or 3 shows a day. So we hung out with all the musicians, and Wilson Pickett was the headliner. And there was Lenny Welsh and the Toys. It was primarily an all R&B show. There were some the Moody Blues, First Time to America. Peter and Gordon, Peter Asher became, the most popular producer in the world, and then Chad and Jeremy. So he would always bring some English bands. Murray the K. You like to think he brought the Beatles here, right? So at any rate, I got to hang around with Buzzy Benson and Ernest X. Smith, who was Wilson's drummer and bass player. I was just this little kid, and we would hang around in these sort of shotgun dressing rooms all night upstairs from the Brooklyn Fox. And this, where I hung with them, was pretty much all black musicians. And in those days, in 1965, Wilson came in at one point and started telling stories about traveling in the South. It was horrendous what I heard. They didn't know I was in the room, and so they didn't hold back. And it was just scary. I was so honored, really, or privileged in a way, to be in the back where they didn't know. I was a fly on the wall, and I heard the real truth. holding back nothing, and it changed my life in respect to the racial divide. It was a wonderful day I'll never ever forget. I mentioned in the book that Wilson and I didn't really get along after that, but he was really nice to me those 10 days in Brooklyn. So, yeah, when I think about it, there's a lot of moments.
Yeah.
A lot of moments.
A lot of incredible moments throughout your illustrious career over the years. And then, of course, as we say, triumph over tragedy, you decided to put together this fabulous Rhythmic Arts Project. How did that idea even develop for you?
I'm not sure, but when I woke up in the ICU from that operation where I broke my neck, I sat up. I didn't sit up. They lifted me up a little bit, and I knew I was going to be all right. But I knew I was just a head, right? And I could blink my eyes. I said, well, let me take an inventory. I could blink my eyes. I could wiggle my ears. I could speak. And I said, that's a lot. I don't know where that come. I was totally paralyzed. I thought I have a lot. I can work with this. And then it's like that. The idea came to me with right, left. We do a lot of laterality. We have to speak. We see the lesson. It's the chart. We see it, and then we play the lesson on a drum, so we feel it, see it, feel it. It's a drum, so we hear it, and then it's to see it, to feel it, and to hear it, and then speak it. So visual, tactile, auditory, and speech. That's the methodology. That's why it's so easy to remember. And it came to me right away when I was just a head. So when I got to the hospital, for the first few weeks, I was totally paralyzed. Couldn't do anything. And then I asked a friend of mine, this hand started moving just a little bit. So I asked my friend Greg Leroy to bring me some drumsticks and a shaker. He brought a cowbell. Don't ever bring a cowbell to the hospital. But he had a cowbell. And, I started with the drumstick. I was, the railing on the side of your bed. And with the drumstick, I was like doing this. You probably can't hear that.
Oh, we hear that clear as a bell.
Oh, okay. So I did that, and I said, "Wow, I still got it. I'm just a hand and a head, and now a head and a hand, but I can do that." So I asked the fellow who was watching us in the ward. I said, "Can you just go da 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 da?" So he said, "I think so," and he played on my tray, on my food tray. So he was going da 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 da. So we had the two of us had this little groove, and then Edith was a little old lady, came in from the other side of the ward. She had spinal cord injury. She was in a lot of pain. And I thought this would be great for her. She could get in on this ensemble. So we gave her a part to play. She couldn't quite get it. But the guy next to me, who was hardly alive at all, he said, "I can do it." And Oscar, I said, "Just put the cowbell on his chest, put a stick in his hand, let him play 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and da 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 da." He got it. He got it perfectly. Then Edith said, "But Eddie, I still want to play." I said, all right, Edith, just clap 2, 3, 4. She could do that perfectly. So we had this ensemble. And these people were totally incapacitated. Myself more than any of them, but I was playing this groove and everybody was in the pocket and the nurses and the doctors came in. I said, oh, geez, I'm going to get thrown out of here. They loved it. And that's what started it. And then remembering blinking my eyes and wiggling my ears and speaking and visual, tactile, auditory combined with speech as a methodology to learn what? Well, right from left, counting, adding, subtracting, dividing, multiplying. All the things we teach in the Rhythmic Arts Project are lessons in life that are normally not taught to people with intellectual and developmental differences. It just, we don't think, especially 25 years ago, they weren't given the credit to be able to. Ronnie Lee played, I just saw something. Said Ronnie Lee played at the Flying Jib. Boy, that was a great club. Leslie Butts. Hey, Les. Leslie's great drummer too.
Oh yeah, we have folks watching from all around the world, which is great, and they've been commenting throughout the show, which I think is fantastic. Yeah, Murray is he's involved in Irish bands and all kinds of music. He's in.
I love Irish music.
He's in Scotland. Yeah,
I used to play with a band called Hot Tips and Fingertips. Hot Lips and Fingertips.
What a cool name. Yeah. The names they would come up with for the bands back then, you know?
Right.
It's really, really cool stuff.
What do you think my band was called? Uncle Fatback.
Uncle Fatback. See it all,
and and all these years, Pockets.
Did you play pool too? Because that involves pockets.
I played pool, yeah. Yeah, of course. Where I'm from, you had to play pool. Yeah. Yeah.
Some towns it's pool, some towns it's billiards.
Wasn't billiards where I'm from.
That's it. So you come up with a founder and creator. This is a really great shot. This is one of the earlier moments of the development of the Rhythmic Arts Project, right?
Yeah, that's Patience, obviously.
Yeah.
That's a guitar player on the left. I was with him the night before I broke my neck. The next night, we had a gig, and I didn't show up because I had broken my neck. Right? I didn't find out. I said, what's wrong? Eddie's never missed a gig.
You're right.
And along that.
Is this Ecuador?
This is in Ecuador, yeah.
Ecuador, wow.
It's called Fundación El Triángulo.
So the reach of the Rhythmic Arts Project isn't just, coast to coast here in the States. It's really universal.
In Europe and in Thailand and Bulgaria, and, Canada.
How has this project, this experience changed? I wouldn't say changed. I would say enriched your life, because you can just look at your expressions, Eddie. They're pure, they're real, they're inspiring. As I mentioned, when you're, playing the drums, you're in your happy zone. Yeah. When you're with these kids,
immeasurably.
You are in your zone, and it's a happy place for you, and they look up to you.
I don't know. I don't know what I did to deserve this, because I never thought I was that nice a person. I think something happened underwater that day that changed my heart. Maybe
you were rebaptized underwater.
I don't know. It may very well have been any number of things. This is Walfredo Reyes Jr. on my right, and Edward James Olmos, Chad Wackerman, and then Walfredo Reyes Sr. And then the real star of the Rhythmic Arts Project is Dion. That's Dion, far right. There he is.
Yeah, that is cool. That is cool. And these again are kids and folks who don't necessarily get the opportunity or the chance, and they're dealing with various things in their lives. And you've created this, Rhythmic Arts Project, really combining rhythm and art and blending it. Tell us what it is for people listening. Say, okay, well, what is the Rhythmic Arts Project? When people are involved in it, like these kids, what's it all about?
Well, this is, the stock answer to that would be inclusion. There are many instances where we could be including people with intellectual and developmental differences in all sorts of things. This coming in a couple of weeks, I'm going to work with a fellow named Coach Roz. Coach was, I believe, a punter for the 49ers at one point in his life. He's up in Sacramento, and he's teaching kids from Special Olympics. So he called me up. He heard about trap. He didn't know exactly what it was, but he wanted to know if he could get involved. I explained to him what it was, and he said, that's even better, because it's not a drum program per se. It's a learning program. And so that was at the pandemic, and we got put off all this time. Now, about a month ago, we hooked up again. And then halfway into it, he said, Eddie, would you mind teaching teenagers, typical teenagers, how to work with younger, developmentally disabled kids? I got teary-eyed. What an amazing opportunity for these teenagers to learn about different people, to learn about developmental differences, and to learn how to include them in your life, and how to accept them, and how to realize that they're really not that different from us at all. Not at all. And this is one of the focuses, or absolutely should be the focus of any organization serving people with disabilities. It should be that we include them, that we cherish them, that we teach them like we would any other child. And I think inclusion is one of the most, and we get to do this with these kids. I know these 15 and 16-year-old children, if you will, have never worked with kids with disabilities. They may think they're weird or different, or they don't pay attention to them because of, will they answer me back? Can they actually play? Or what are they like? Well, now they'll know. They'll know what they're like, and they'll fall in love with these kids, and they'll take that with them for the rest of their lives. Imagine. So this is the kind of thing that, now we teach grown-ups, people from 6 months old to 70 or 80 years old, with various disabilities, all kinds of disabilities. And it's always the same. Just the people are different, but they have as much love in their hearts as we do, more. They're not as judgmental. They're open. They care about each other. I mean, look at that's Maria Gracia, her name is. Oh my God, when she hugs you, it's for life.
Yeah.
It's for life.
Very precious.
Oh my God, it's like,
yeah.
I feel so blessed, honored, chosen in a way to have been put in this position to learn what I've learned from people who are much more spiritually orientated than I, much more accepting than me, much more all of the above. And they've taught me, and I've listened, and I've changed. And I think that's why, that's another part of the reason this is such a great program. It can change your heart about the world.
About the world.
This was the night I sat in with War. They were my friends, and they were playing. I live across the street from the Santa Barbara Bowl. They were playing. The drummer was a good friend of mine. I was in the backstage, and they said, "Come on, yeah, Sal asked you to play." I said, "Come on, play." Yeah, I'm going to go sit in. They said, "Yeah, go sit in." And I go and sit in, and they play. What's the famous song? Roadrunner or not Roadrunner? Lowrider.
Lowrider, yeah.
I had to play Lowrider with War for 4,000 people. It was amazing. That's how musicians are, though. They embrace each other. They know how much it means to us, and we know how much it means to them.
It's really incredible. What was the writing process like for this book, and what sort of inspired you to write this now? I know do you call it a memoir, an autobiography? What is it to you, and what was it about it now where you needed to get this story told?
It's really the pandemic that spurred almost everybody I know. Everybody wrote a book.
Everybody, it was life-changing for all of us. Yeah.
And I had all these stories I had been writing. Not all of it was put together, but a lot of it. And so it helped me to remember being on the road with, I had some weird gigs like Englebert Humperdinck.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
I called him.
Look at this shot. There's Rick Nelson.
Yeah. He was something. He was a good kid. Really nice to us. Too bad he was so ugly. He was
But you've worked with a variety of different people and different genres of music over the years.
You sort of have to pay the rent. You can't say, "Look, I don't like country, sorry," or "I don't like this or that." And I wasn't that good. The country bands, I don't know how I had got so many country gigs, because I played different. So if I was out of work, I would play polkas. I just had to play. I had to pay the rent, and I never said, "Oh no, I don't know. It's beneath me or above me." It's just, I'll do it. And it's I just got lucky to play with a lot of people. With the country thing, they like me because I never approached it the authentic way. Where you're playing. I mean this respectfully, white rhythms versus the black rhythms that I grew up on and aspired to. I had to learn how to play real straight white rhythms, country rhythms. And I didn't quite get it. So it was different. So every time a country band would ask me to play, they would all look at each other and go, "Wow, that's really great." Because it was different. They were used to the same boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom. And I come along going, chicka, 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 chicka. And then, wow, that's really cool. But 3 nights in the first tour, they would go, "Man, you're not playing right." I said, I don't know how. I told you, I don't know how to play this. I'm not a country guy. I told you, I was, I warned you. And then, then I'd leave after the tour or whatever. Be the end of it. And with Rick Nelson, it was the same thing. I stayed in that band for 1.5 years. And Rick helped me. We did a lot of recording, which was cool. And Rick helped me in the studio. He was a great guy, a real talented writer, singer. I mean,
what was it like writing the book? Did you journal through the years? How did you remember all the stories and all the moments to be able to share them in the book? And what was the writing process like for you? Was it very cathartic in a way?
Yeah. Yeah, all writing is cathartic, I believe. And especially when you're purging all of that stuff. I mean, there's some scary stories in there about fights and drunkenness and all of it, you know. I didn't hold much back. I didn't talk about, like a lot of rock and rollers talk about sex and drugs. I don't, I don't want to read about that. You know, I mean, it was prevalent in the business over all those years, but I never cared to tell anybody about. I tried to keep the salacious bits out of it, which I think I did, right? You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that. So, you know, I wanted to tell stories that were real to me, that people might learn something from. You know, I mean, going to jail, being beat up, beating people up. What that when people read that stuff, they go, "Who is it? That's not you." It certainly was. It really was me. You know.
Were you at all hesitant for a moment or two in being so open and sharing these kinds of stories? Or did you say, I want to?
I wanted to. The most, if anything, I was afraid of. I thought I'd be sued by at least three of the artists. You probably know who they are, but I wasn't. I was just telling the truth, and they, you know, I worked with some really awful people who treated everyone.
Who are major names that everybody would know?
Yeah, and they read the book. You know,
Yeah.
nobody has sued me yet.
Has there been feedback from the industry, from readers? What's some of the vibe you're getting from everybody?
Everybody loves it. They think it's a comedy. Everybody thinks it's a comedy. All my writing is humorous. So, I mean, the story about the hospital and the colonoscopy, you can read that on my Facebook page. It's pretty funny.
Are you, is there an audio book too where you narrate it? Is that something you'd like to do?
Yeah, I tried to do that with a friend of mine, and it took forever, and it didn't really work out. You know, but I have, you know, I have a couple of copies. You know, well, maybe when I come to Connecticut, I'll make one for
You'll
you.
make the copy.
They're fun because everyone wanted me to speak in my. Out here, I have an accent. People think I have an accent. You know.
They do. Do they think you're from New York?
Yeah, but I'm not from New York. This isn't a New York accent.
You're from Connecticut. Yeah, yeah, New England.
Yeah.
Lobster.
Well, yeah, you know, my mom grew up from 1 year old in Brooklyn, and all my relatives were from
New York,
Long Island, New York. Yeah, they were from the Bronx, and Jersey, and Long Island, and Manhattan, and like so. I spent most of my childhood in and around, and then you know, speaking to my mom in the house, she had a really. My mom sounded like Barbra Streisand. Sounds like my mom. I just listened to her book, which was fantastic, and I hear my mom in her voice all the time, and then I hear some of my Brooklynese that my mom sort of.
So your mom from there, and she's of Italian heritage. Your father from Spain.
Yeah.
Did your father come? Did your father come from Spain?
Yeah.
And did he end up in New York?
Yes, he did. First, they went from. I think he was born in Valencia. Then they migrated to Majorca, the island, Baleares Islands. Then from the islands to Cuba with his sister and his brother and his mom. And they lived in Cuba until he was like 11 or 12 years old. And then they went to New York. Grandpa never made it. I don't know why. But so, yeah, Dad was Spain, and then Majorca, and then Cuba, and then New York.
How does having the elements of the Italian heritage and the Latin, the Spanish heritage influence your music? I mean, there's incredible rhythms and melodies and ballads, and in those cultures, it's very rhythmic and just a lot of excitement and warmth in those. Do you pull from that?
All of it. My dad played every instrument he touched. Everything. He played violin, piano, banjo, drums, everything, guitar. And then he liked Xavier Cugat, who also came from Spain to Cuba, and then New York. Same way, same age, you know. And but my dad was an accountant. He brought up his family working as an accountant in Dun and Bradstreet, New York City. So he played for fun. And when I actually started to show some promise, he really supported that. My mom did too. They knew I wasn't academic and I wouldn't be, you know.
Yeah.
But he died.
Music was in your heart.
Yeah. He died when I was very young, and we never got to hang, which I really wish that could have happened because he was a cool guy. It didn't work out. My mom and I stayed close until her passing.
When you wrote the book, was there somebody in mind you were writing it for? Who is the reader, or is it for anybody?
My family, because I lived out here for 50 years. Last year I went home for Christmas. I met two nieces I didn't know. One of them I had met previous, but never really spoke to her. The other one was only 3 years old. I never met her. And now my nieces had children and they had children. So the family's sort of growing up around me, and I want to be there this time.
Is that why you're moving back east?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big
family.
And the trap will be great. I'll have my little Connecticut Rhythmic Arts Project.
That's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. And I'll be able to, I have a friend, Debbie Major, who she's brilliant. She's a great facilitator. She has 2 children with disabilities, so she really knows about the passion, everything that it takes. And she knows more than I do, that's for sure. She's really smart. And she's a singer. You should have her on the show.
Yeah.
She sings in New York and all over, and she's very good. I wouldn't say that. I really wouldn't. Having one of my best friends is Brenda. I wouldn't say that.
Right.
And she's really interesting too. And
that sounds cool.
She had her own place called Xylophone. That's how I met her. She had her own disability organization. And it was years ago. And she read about trap. And she had me come there to upstate New York and introduce the program now. And she used it until the pandemic. And then, they didn't really get it up and running again after that.
What have you not done that is still on that bucket list for you? You've done so much over the years, Eddie.
I don't think about that. I live every day.
You live in the present.
I do. Yeah. I don't think about what I've missed or what I haven't done. Most times I'll think, well, I haven't been to Tahiti. So what? I live in Santa Barbara. It's like
Do you think that some of these things that have happened to you, that have been thrown at you, that you've had to deal with, have been to help you build resilience and to give you the wherewithal to pay it forward, to inspire others in the way that you do? Because you've had so much thrown your way.
I have no idea, Jim, why I am, why I seem to be able to kind of recover from all these things and why it matters to anybody. Why does my life make any difference to someone else who looks at it and says, I don't know what they want. I don't know. I don't feel that. I feel very grateful.
It's there. People do feel it about you. That's for sure.
I'm very grateful, that people think that. But that's part of the reason I wrote that book, because I wanted to mention that I'm no angel. I was a real nincompoop for a while.
Here's an old school word.
Yeah.
So he's basically saying he may look like Jesus, but he isn't.
I think Jesus would have been a good friend of mine.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations on this book, my friend. This really was, I know, a labor of love for you, and we encourage folks to get it. People can go online to get it. I know one of the places is Hudson Music.
The only place you can get it is
HudsonMusic.com is right there. So make sure that's where you go, folks, to pick up your copy. HudsonMusic.com is where it's located. And we've been showing the website for the Rhythmic Arts Project as well. If you want to learn more, roll up your sleeves, participate, or somebody who would really benefit from it, check it out. It's really an extraordinary thing. Eddie, this was an amazing conversation. Really.
I think this is the best one I've had.
I appreciate that. Really.
I really enjoyed our first meeting, but this has been just wonderful. Thank you.
The pleasure is
easy to talk to. You ask all the right questions. Thank you so much, Jim.
My friend, I said last time we would keep the porch light on for you, and that light has been burning. And I'm so glad that on this occasion we're having you back with the new book and bouncing back from the health situation and all these things that are happening that are in your life. And it was really, really terrific to have this opportunity to update our viewers on what you've been up to. And we're going to continue to keep that porch light on for you. You are welcome back anytime, my friend, and continue to spread the word about our show. And I hope you enjoy the time with me once again, as I absolutely have with you, Eddie.
Always, Jim. Honestly, we have to do it next year. Maybe once a year we should do this.
Come back and update, right? Absolutely.
You ever had anybody in studio?
Not yet. No, I've gone on location 2 places, and I do a lot of that in my television work too and other radio work. But that's a good idea. Yeah.
Let's do that. I'll be there.
I know you will.
Yeah.
We should do it like at a restaurant with coffee and, a tuna melt or something. A good old-fashioned diner or something.
Living, it's called.
And they're pouring the coffee while we're talking. And I've thought about doing that, taking the show on the road and bringing it out like that. A lot of people have asked about me doing that, which is a cool idea. And thanks for all the kind words too. I might have said this to you last time, and I say it every once in a while on this show. My father told me when I was 7, he said, my Irish dad from New York, from Astoria, he said, Jimmy, anytime anybody says something kind or nice to you, make sure you always thank them for those words. Then ask them to please put those words in writing and address it management.
Good idea.
So true, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for the kind words, but can you please make sure management hears those?
Sure.
Cool stuff. And big love from Dawn. Yeah, in DSM. Got some love coming in from Dawn, my friend.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, Dawn.
Love you too.
And welcome to the Jim Masters Show live. And everybody is saying come back and come see us again. And they've really enjoyed it. Some of these folks were here. These are some of our real diehard. These are our loveties, the Jim Master Show loveties. Yeah, remember the loveties?
Yeah,
light, love, and levity.
Yeah.
Really enjoying the fact that you made a return visit, and they're going to grab that book. HudsonMusic.com is where you go, folks. to get it. Eddie, my friend, you're the best. Thanks for spending this time with us and being so generous with your time. And again, continue to spread the word about our show. It takes a village, and we will have you back soon. And safe travels as you box up and you head back home east. And hopefully there'll be a ticker tape parade.
Come in. Please come in, Mom. You guys could have come in. This is my friends. We're going to dinner.
They're probably hungry. That's why they're coming in.
I know.
Eddie, you told us 20 minutes. What is?
Come on in, guys. It's all right.
They're probably like, what? My hair isn't the way I want it.
Come on in. No.
It's it. Yeah.
Lauren works in the field of developmental disabilities.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Brilliant. She's
wonderful.
So smart. I lean on her a lot and ask her advice on a million things. So.
That is beautiful. Well, you got to go to have dinner. So,
yeah.
Really fabulous conversation, my friend. Again, folks, one more time, hudsonmusic.com is where you can get the book. And there is the website for the Rhythmic Arts Project, a brainchild of this man right here, the incomparable, legendary drummer extraordinaire, Eddie Tuduri. Second return engagement here on the Jim Masters Show live. Come by and see us again, Eddie. Enjoy the dinner, safe travels, and a real blessing to have you here, my friend.
You too, Jim. Thank you so much, man. You need somebody to slip in at the last minute, call me up.
Absolutely, I will. All right, you got it. You be well, okay? You take care. Continue blessings.
Bye, Jim.
All right, take care. Coming to us from Santa Barbara, California, USA, Eddie Tuduri. What a big heart he has, right? And what an incredible conversation we've had. This was his return visit. He wrote a new book. It's his memoir. It's his autobiography. There it is, Fatback, Life in the Pocket. And he described what the pocket is, and he described what fatback means. It's a term within music, an iconic career. He's very humble about it, too. He's had many ups, many downs, many experiences, craziness, peace. He had that unreal surfing accident where he almost drowned. He almost died. He was paralyzed, and all of these experiences, and he built himself back up. And as a result, pays it forward by creating the Rhythmic Arts Project and helping those who are disabled and have situations where they don't necessarily get a chance to do some of the things everybody else normally does, without thinking. But he's created something that gives him the opportunity to do these beautiful things, surrounded by art and music. Really a gifted guy. And this is his, again, return visit to JMS. And he actually asked to come back on the show. He said, "Hey, Jim, I wrote a book. I loved being on last time. I loved our conversation. I love the style that it's not even really an interview. It's a good conversation, and I want to be back." And he's been very supportive of our series. And again, we looked back at some really cool shots of the younger days of Eddie Tuduri as well, and his illustrious career. He's a great guy, and very happy to have him back. And we congratulate him on his book as well. We thank you for being with us. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, did you enjoy this episode? Certainly let us know. Leave a comment in the comments section on our YouTube channel underneath. Let us know what you enjoyed about it. Maybe there's a story you want to share. We're very interactive. So leave a comment for us in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this episode and all the ones that we create and work so hard behind the scenes to put together for you, night after night after night, hundreds of shows with all these amazing guests, celebrity friends, special guests from all different backgrounds and levels of celebrity, and with a story to tell and a smile to give, and all kinds of cool things, lots of inspiration, entertainment, and lots more. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. That's where all these episodes are, and you can see past episodes and binge watch. Share this episode on your social media, somebody that might be inspired by it, get a kick out of it. Leave a comment for us, and do give this episode a like. There is a thumbs up thumbs up icon on the YouTube channel on all the episodes and click that thumbs up icon for us. And for that, we say thank you, as we always do. It's important to say thank you. And what a cool story, right? Good stuff. And if this is your first time watching JMS, welcome to the family, the lovely family here at the Jim Masters Show Live. We appreciate every single one of you watching live and also watching this later on in the archives. Come see us again. Just a couple of things. We did a really cool episode celebrating the iconic television veteran Peter Marshall, and we had so many guests on that show, like 12 surprise celebrity guests from television, real veterans of TV were with us. And check that episode out on our YouTube channel. Laurie Jacobson was here talking about her book and that famous night when the Beatles performed at Shea Stadium in 1965. She was a great guest. And there's hundreds of other episodes that you can check back on our YouTube channel. Tomorrow, we have a Hollywood legend. Cissy Wellman is with us. She starred on The Waltons, General Hospital. She's been in Hallmark movies. Her father was the incredible filmmaker and director William Wellman, who has created so many iconic films and all kinds of things. She is a hoot and a holler, and she is back with us. Yes, she is back with us. She was with us, maybe 2 years ago, and she is going to be back in Lovelady Hall. She's all excited, and I can't wait to have our dear friend Cissy Wellman, Hollywood legend, fabulous actress, back here in Lovelady Hall tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific. It's going to be amazing. And again, that's live. So if you're watching this 6 months from now, this will have already aired. Check back in the archives. But she has a great personality. She's funny. She's bubbly. And we're going to have a good time with her tomorrow for those watching live. We love you all. Come see us again. Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time till next time, right here in Lovelady Hall at the Jim Masters Show. Be well. Take care of one another. Love one another. Don't forget to do the very same for yourself. We really love having you here. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the show. Take care and cheers.